It's a question we had as well. And we actually made the investment in Angel Broking and CDSL maybe a little earlier than this time last year. See, they've surprised us too. But let's go back to the thesis, the basic thesis of why we even decided to enter into these sometime ago. And I'll just caveat it by saying, please don't construe any of this as advice. Everybody should do their own work. This is just Girik's own view. That you see, when we started looking at brokerages, we looked at Angel Broking, we looked at ICICI Securities, we looked at the whole brokerage sector a little over a year ago, just after Angel's IPO. And what we noticed was there is an element over here of digitization. So what we were finding was that just a cluster of broking firms, maybe 3 or 4 of them, most of these are unlisted by the way, names like Upstocks and Zerodha, and Angel had just come out with an IPO. These guys were incrementally taking bulk of the market share in the broking sector, and they were even healthily beating the ICICI Securities and the HDFC Securities at a game that they had ought to win. Right? And we tried to dig into what's the reason for this, because you see, we also have the same bias about broking companies and depository companies, that these are deeply cyclical, which they can be. Broking used to be 50 bips 20 years ago, now it's next to zero, right? And what could really be the cause for any triggers in stocks such as this? And what we found was that the industry was getting very clustered. There were maybe 4 or 5 names that were taking bulk of the incremental market share. If you look at Angel today, it's still taking almost 20% of the incremental market share. We tried to understand what's really the reason for this. And we found that because of digitization in India and the easy availability of data communication in India, people or broking firms that have been able to adapt to the new way of doing business at virtually zero fees are outgunning the traditional players. So it really became a winner-take-all kind of game, and 4 or 5 guys took the entire market by storm. QSR is a good theme, consumer is a good theme. I think one must be very aware when they look at a QSR company that it's able to not lose its relevance with time. I think the one QSR name that sticks out, which has done very well historically, is Jubilant Foodworks. They're an out-and-out leader, and I think the interesting thing about that name, and which is one reason why we've always liked it and owned it from time to time, is that they today have close to 40 million registered users on their app, and they were a very early enabler and adapter of technology. So to disrupt somebody like that won't be easy. You have a Zomato IPO coming in, and today there are restaurants being born that actually rely on Zomato. They're happy to pay them that 20% because they can't do without them, right? But when you look at someone like a Domino's, they've got their own digital stack out there, which gives them direct ownership of their customer. And they're able to not only give their customer a direct experience, they're also able to save that money, So I think that there is one has to be very challenging times, very exciting times, because that whole QSR space is moving along in a very fast manner. So, guys like Domino's, very well established, very good names, some of the larger QSRs as well, the Burger King, McDonald's, obviously these guys have a right to win. And they have the capital and the resources to go out and make sure they scale and keep a hold of their customer directly and provide them a great, exciting experience. But one must, when you look at a QSR, one must not ignore what the Zomatos and Swiggies of the world are doing, right? So one must really understand the business model and understand where they sort of fit into the ecosystem before one makes an investment call.
If you look at many of these companies which people claim that, oh wow, these are master franchise, probably 10 years ago they were not in that bracket, or they were not in that segment. It's because of the recent run up, and because we are so in love with some of those companies, we say that they're amazing companies. But we've seen these cycles come again and again. Look at 2007. If you didn't own an SBI and an L&T, people would laugh at you, right? Today, who owns an SBI and L&T, right? Everybody owns the Nestle's or the Asian Paints of the world. So, there are great companies in every sectors, There are great companies. Yes, I mean, if you look at Tata Steel, they have made their share of mistakes going into international markets, bad capital allocation. But a lot of that can change. Is it a cyclical industry? Yes, steel prices are cyclical, but is the demand secular? Yes, the demand is very secular. The India steel demand will keep growing, has kept growing, and Tata Steel is the largest steel manufacturer of the country, and the sector is really getting consolidated. So for us, what's important is that can it become that darling of the market over a period of time? Maybe it is not today, but over a period of time, can it become that master franchise which could throw out enormous amount of cash and to its shareholders and really reward shareholders?
This is one of those names that has done pretty well. What we like about it is the earnings growth story. See, the thing with Ajanta has been historically, it's been a very well-managed company. And, they've always been able to find growth through all their initiatives. So, not only is their domestic business and their emerging markets branded business very strong, the kind of earnings growth it keeps throwing out is far superior and higher than the rest of its competition. Also, in terms of its US business, it kind of went wrong, and that's why the whole story sort of, fell on its head a couple of years ago, because, the US market got very crowded and there was disruption in the distribution chain then. There were major US FDA issues. They seem to have got through them pretty well. They had made the investment upfront and now they seem to be getting rewarded for it. So I think there's many earnings tailwinds in it, and hopefully they should continue. And that's the story behind Ajanta.